Roman is no ordinary mortician. He works for a vicious gangster by getting rid of his victims' bodies. But betrayal, unexpected partnerships, and a shocking acquisition may bring Roman closer to death than ever before. Mary Dickinson, the CEO of NMT Group, is under investigation by local authorities due to her son, Jackson Dickinson's disappearance. It has been a week since Jackson, who was the department head of NMT Group, went missing. The police are investigating the case and have received indications that Jackson may have been involved in criminal activities. Missing posters of Jackson can be seen around town describing him as a handsome blonde man with blue eyes. The scene shifts to a man sitting in a gloomy cafe smoking cigarettes and reading a newspaper. He leaves the cafe and gets into a limo, which he drives to a warehouse. In the warehouse, he meets a man in a trench coat named Luck. After exchanging greetings, Luck shows the man, whose name is Roman, 3 body bags that he claims are in good condition. Roman unzips one of the bags and disagrees with Luck's assessment. They proceed to transport the bodies to Roman's car and dump them in it. Roman tells Luck that preparing the bodies will take time, as his assistants have stopped coming to work, and he is occupied with other matters. Luck warns Roman to be careful as any mistakes could result in Mr. Fisher's displeasure. Roman drives his car and stops it near a mortuary named Piotrowski Funeral and Cremation Service. He changes his clothes and begins to dissect the bodies slowly, taking regular cigarette breaks. After dissecting the bodies, he packs the body parts and stores them in a shabby freezer room. In a bar, 3 individuals were sitting at a round table, smoking and drinking. Jacob, a middle-aged man with long blonde hair, was accompanied by Lincoln, a younger dark-skinned bald man, and Sonia, a young woman with dark hair. During their conversation, Jacob handed out a business card of a man named Roman Piotrowski, who was a funeral director. Lincoln inquired about their dealings with a mortician, to which Jacob explained that Roman worked for Fisher the gangster and was involved in the illegal trade of selling corpses. Jacob proposed that they should recruit Roman to make money the same way Fisher did. To achieve this, Jacob planned to meet Roman in the guise of a corpse and convince him face to face. Later, the scene shifts to Roman having a conversation with Mr. Simon, who was Lincoln's fake name, about getting the dead body of his father-in-law, Jacob, from their home. Roman informed Mr. Simon that he would arrive at the location in 15 minutes. Upon hearing the news, the 3 individuals panicked as they were not expecting Roman to arrive so soon. However, Lincoln managed to calm them down and reiterated the plan. Jacob was to disguise himself as a corpse and enter Roman's mortuary parlor. He would take pictures of the premises as a form of blackmail. Sonia would pose as his daughter, and Lincoln would play the role of his son-in-law, using the fake names Mr. and Mrs. Simon. They planned to overpower Roman if things went awry. When Roman arrived, he was greeted by Mr. Simon. Roman thanked him for the release consent and other documents, and was surprised to find the dead body already packed in a human remains pouch, HRP. Mr. Simon explained that their family doctor had done this. Roman secured the body in the HRP with the help of Lincoln and prepared to take it to his car. However, during the process, Lincoln's foot slipped and Roman prevented the body from falling down. They put the body in Roman's car, and he drove away. When he arrived at his workplace, he placed Jacob's body on a stretcher and then stored him in the freezer room along with the other bodies. After that, Roman went for dinner. As Jacob came out of the bag, something fell on his head, a human head. He was dumbfounded and threw it away. Jacob took some photos, and while trying to get out of the fridge, he realized that the door was locked from the outside by Roman. Roman had known that Jacob was not dead. He called Lincoln and told him that he would be busy for a few days, so it would be better for him to visit now in order to complete the paperwork and other formalities. All this conversation took place while Roman was preparing his shotgun. When Sonia and Lincoln arrived at Roman's place, he apologized for calling them at this time and asked them to come down. While they were looking around in the basement, Roman pulled out his gun and pointed it at their backs, asking them to put their hands up. Lincoln became frustrated as he knew that their plan had failed. Roman told him that any mortician can tell the difference between a living and a dead person, and he asked them what they were trying to do. They didn't tell him anything. Roman asked them to turn around and get into the fridge in front of them. Jacob was shocked to see these two coming in and shouted at them, asking why they were there. Lincoln told him that they were at gunpoint and couldn't do anything. They had underestimated Roman. Roman was shaking. He was tired and nervous. His gun was unloaded. He would have actually shot someone because of his nervousness. 1 hour later, Roman opened the door and asked them to come out. He tied them to a chair using duct tape and asked them why they had done this. Jacob told him it was a prank and that he could trust them. Roman asked him why he took the photos, and Jacob explained the real reason. They wanted him to work for them and dissect the corpses. Roman told them that they could do it themselves, as working with idiots poses a much greater risk than it's worth $1 million. Lincoln said they would give him more than it was worth. Roman took that as a joke, but Jacob told him that they were deadly serious. Roman gave it some thought but declined. Jacob tried to convince him by calling it the deal of the century, but Roman turned him down, calling it a home shopping scam. Sonia asked Roman to listen to them, and he agreed. Jacob told him about the Randall's crematorium, which was actually owned by Mr. Fisher. A big shipment of chopped up body parts was soon going out from there. Their plan was to hijack the shipment truck and sell the contents to the buyers themselves. The demand for these products was much higher than the supply, and if Fisher's supply was halted, the prices would increase, which would directly benefit them. As they had no knowledge of how the corpse business worked, they needed Roman to help them out. Roman told them that it could be very dangerous, as hijacking a truck was not an easy task, and they didn't even know who the dead people were. Sonia told him that they'd get these issues sorted out as they had an insider in the crematorium. Roman thought to himself that these people were complete idiots. They didn't even know how dangerous Mr. Fisher was. One wrong move and they'd all be dead. It would be better for him to kill them instead of getting killed by Mr. Fisher. Roman stood up and said he'd think about it and told them that he was going to get something to eat as he hadn't had his dinner yet. They are all disappointed in themselves. Their foul-proof plan had failed miserably. Also, Roman is a lot less cooperative than they expected. Roman thought to himself that these people would not remain silent if he let them go, and they also knew too much about him. It would be better to kill them now. Roman cannot use his shotgun as it would make a lot of noise, and he also doesn't have a suppressor. Moreover, he cannot use knives, as killing 3 people with knives would be a ridiculous idea. It would be easy for him to do it if they were already dead. Just then, Roman thought of his supplier, Luck. He gave him a ring, and Luck picked up. Luck told Roman that he was about to call him and asked him to come by the office as Mr. Fisher wanted to meet him right now. Roman agreed. Luck told Mr. Fisher that Roman was on his way. "It's been a long time since we met, Mr. Piotrowski," Mr. Fisher said. One day earlier, Luck was standing near a building where 3 men were playing cards on the top floor. A man with a machine gun approached Luck, but he denied him entry because the noise would draw attention. Instead, Luck gave him a metal bat. The 2 of them went upstairs to confront the 3 men. As one of the men was leaving the room, Mr. Fisher, the man with the bat, struck him in the face, killing him instantly. The loud noise startled the other 2 people in the room. Fisher was seeking revenge because the 3 men had stolen money from him. One of the remaining men put a bag full of money in front of Fisher and apologized, but Fisher was not satisfied. He wanted their lives, and he killed them both with 5 hits. Fisher asked Luck to take care of the cleanup, and Luck enlisted Roman's help since his lackeys were unavailable. Fisher inquired about Roman's usefulness and asked Luck to find a positive role for him in their business expansion by morning. Fisher was leaving to attend his granddaughter's 7th birthday. After the cleanup, Luck told Roman that he would receive the money through the usual channel. Once Roman left, Luck thought to himself that he didn't need to think twice about it. Roman, who was in the office building, was waiting for the elevator with a janitor. He asked the janitor where he was going at that hour. Roman replied that his boss had called him and he had brought some wine as a bribe for his boss. The elevator arrived, and they boarded it. The janitor advised Roman to smile as no one would want to talk to someone with a gloomy face. Roman said he would keep that in mind. The scene then shifts to Jacob and his gang discussing their fate. They wondered what would happen to them if they died there. Sonia said she would travel the world and make her TV debut as a dismembered murder victim. Jacob said his body parts could be sold to a French chef who would turn him into foie gras, and people would praise the dish. Lincoln shattered their dreams by telling them that they were not going to be shipped overseas as it would be very dangerous and they would end up in the local market. Instead of joking and laughing, Lincoln asked them to think of an escape plan, but he knew it was unlikely. Roman took their belongings, tied them to a chair, and locked them from the outside, making it impossible for them to escape. Jacob had a feeling that they were not going to die there. Back at the office, Mr. Fisher had fired Roman, stating that he had not been beneficial to their business expansion plan. As a token of apology, Mr. Fisher would provide him with 50% extra pay for the bodies he picked up that morning. Roman rudely replied that this was all they were giving him after working for them for years. Luck stopped him and asked him to keep his cool. He told Roman to be grateful for what they had given him so far. Roman was of no use to them now, so they were letting him go. Mr. Fisher warned him to remember where all the dead bodies came from. While going down in the elevator, Roman met the janitor again. The janitor told him not to be sad as he was young. Roman gave him the wine bottle and told him that he was completely fine. While coming out of the building, Roman briefly thought about working with the trio in his basement, but he dismissed the thought as ridiculous. At the Grateful Deli Cafe, we see Jacob having a conversation with the receptionist. He gave the order that Roman had requested. The barista asked him if he was Roman's customer. Jacob replied that he was a co-worker. The barista thought that Jacob was working in place of Tommy, Roman's former assistant. With Jacob's order completed, the barista asked him to pass the crossword magazine to Roman, who likes to solve puzzles as it helps him organize his thoughts. On the way back, Jacob saw Lincoln sitting outside as he was not feeling well. He passed him a coffee and asked him to come back to the workplace. At the workplace, Roman was dissecting a body and teaching Sonia how to do it properly. Jacob got grossed out and went upstairs. On the dining table, they were having a discussion about how only Sonia could help Roman in his work since Jacob and Lincoln were pretty much useless for this work. They couldn't even handle a gory movie, so dissecting a dead body was nearly an impossible task for them. Jacob asked Roman how he could eat normally after dissecting a dead body. Roman said that the body was in good condition and did not smell, so that was why. Then Roman told them about his experiences with bodies in bad conditions, a middle schooler who fell off a building, a half-eaten and bloated body of a middle-aged woman, and the rotten corpse of an old man. They all got grossed out, but then Jacob showed some condolences to Roman since he had been fired. He said that things were getting more common between them, which would help build better relations. Jacob told Roman that after a week at midnight, the shipment trucks would be out. They usually remain unguarded, so they'll just get dressed as the truck drivers, have some fake IDs, and take away the trucks while they are still in transit. While this conversation was taking place, another conversation was going on between Luck and a silver-haired dude who was beating a man to death. Luck asked him to guard the shipments 1 week later. He asked why he wasn't getting it done by Roman and knew that Roman was fired. He told Luck that Roman might cause them trouble in the future, but Luck said they'll handle him after this shipment. As Luck was reading the newspaper, he came across an article about Jackson Dickinson. He was highly regarded among the employees of the NMT group as well as the citizens due to his charity work and upstanding character. Luck said to himself that there was a lot more behind people than they show. On the other hand, Roman is having doubts about his decision to work with these people. They were also abandoned and taken advantage of by Fisher, but it's still a risky job. At Sammy's bar, Luck is sitting with Eddie, the white-haired dude, waiting for a girl who is running late. They plan to meet at 11 o'clock at this place because it's the nearest to her place, but it's already 11:34 and Luck is frustrated. While people are fighting, Eddie is enjoying himself, and Luck is disgusted. Eddie asks Luck why he and Fisher are so troubled by this shipment. However, Luck shakes him off and tells him to mind his own business. The scene changes, and we see a short-haired girl wearing a black hoodie crossing paths with 2 men with a dog. She asks about the dog, and one man says it belongs to him. She checks its collar and becomes frustrated as it's her dog. She pulls out her butterfly knife and makes a clean cut on the man's hand. The other man attacks her, but she dodges and stabs him in the back. She then takes his arm and breaks it with a kick. The other man runs away in his car. She leaves the scene and arrives at Sammy's bar where Luck has been waiting for her. Luck scolds her for being late, and she tells him about the dog thieves. Eddie tells them her name is Elaine. The scene shifts to the man who ran away in his car. He is trying to call the cops while driving, but his phone slips, and he tries to pick it up. At that exact moment, Larry the barista is dropping off Jane, the old lady who works with him in the cafe. He drops her off, and they discuss the wine that Roman gave him last night. She starts to cross the road but suddenly gets hit by the car that the man is driving. Larry is shocked to his core, rushes towards the accident and calls out to the old lady, but he hears no reply. Luck and Eddie were disgusted as they looked at the dead body of the man who stole Elaine's dog lying in a dumpster. Elaine had told them that there were no witnesses, so it was fine. Luck told them to go to the crematorium, as he would handle the situation there. Luck was still perplexed at how Elaine had managed to drag this adult man into a dumpster. At Randall's crematorium, Jacob and Roman were about to board trucks numbers 2 and 5. The man in charge of handling told Jacob clearly that he would be in Hawaii by morning and that if anything went wrong, all the blame would fall on Jacob. Jacob jokingly took his word. They changed into the driver's uniform. Roman told Jacob that there were 4 key members in Fisher's gang. Fisher is the leader, Luck is the old man, and Eddie works for Luck with another man whom he had never met. If they stumbled upon them, chances were they would barely recognize him. As they were about to leave the crematorium, a man stopped the truck and asked the handling manager, who told them to go. He said he was not expecting anyone. On the radio, Jacob told Roman that 2 goons had stopped the truck, and he was getting a bad feeling about it. Roman's truck was going to Atlantic City, and Jacob's truck was going to Washington. Roman recognized Eddie and told Jacob about him. They were both nervous. Elaine opened the door and sat with Roman, and Eddie and his dog sat with Jacob. They were both frightened, but Roman was more nervous for Jacob as he didn't have any chance. A song is playing on the radio, sung by Jacob and Eddie. They are getting along pretty well. Eddie is also sharing his weed with Jacob while telling him stories of his work. Jacob tells Eddie that he'll be stopping at the next gas station to pick up some snacks and drinks. Eddie exhales and suddenly becomes seriously ill. He stares at Jacob, comes near his face, and says that he's up to something as he can smell it. Jacob shakes him away from his face. Eddie asks him why he needs snacks for such a short trip. Jacob replies that he'll eat because he wants to and that there is nothing suspicious about it. Eddie agrees to that. At the gas station, Sonia is present. She smells weed from Jacob. He says it's just one puff. He explains the situation to Sonia and how they can't keep up with their plan. So he makes a new plan. He tells Sonia about it and goes to the cashier. As he's paying for the snacks, Sonia falls down. She asks the cashier to help her up. The cashier goes to help her. At that moment, Jacob changes the position of the security camera and takes the cashier's car keys. When Jacob comes out of the store, he tells Eddie that the shopkeeper has his car trunk full of drugs. He heard about it when the shopkeeper was talking on the phone. Eddie asks him how he's going to open that trunk. Jacob shows him the keys, and they walk towards the car. When Jacob opens the trunk, there are no drugs to be seen but adult videotapes. As Eddie is saying to divide them 80:20, he collapses. Sonia has hit him with a wine bottle on his head. They both beat him to a pulp, hide Eddie in the car trunk, and lock it. Jacob and Sonia check the trunk, and the products are in very small quantities. He calls Lincoln and tells him that he has secured his shipment. Lincoln tells him that Roman is nowhere to be found and he isn't even picking up his phone. The scene changes to Roman, Elaine's knife, as well as Roman's face covered in blood. Elaine is reading a book while Roman is driving the truck. Elaine asks him to drive carefully as she can't concentrate on the book. Suddenly, Roman slams on the brakes, causing Elaine to bump her head. She shouts at him, and Roman explains that the roads are in bad condition. He asks Elaine to put on her seatbelt, but she refuses. Roman slams on the brakes again, causing Elaine to become furious. She hits Roman's head on the steering wheel and then on the window, causing his face to become bloody. Roman stops the truck and tries to kick Elaine out, but she dodges and pulls him out of the truck. She knees him in the face and demands to know why he did this when he doesn't even know how to fight. She takes his wallet, which contains fake details, and flees the scene as strangers approach. A man and a woman offer to help Roman, but he refuses. He thanks them but feels disappointed in himself for missing the cargo and causing the plan to fail. Meanwhile, Eddie wakes up in the car trunk and orders his dog, Spike, to go get help while he sits near the car. At the Piotrowski mortuary parlor, there was a body lying on the stretcher with 2 fingers missing, still wearing a suit. Roman looked at it, and it seemed familiar to him. It was the only intact body in the cargo truck. Roman and the gang were now back at the parlor. Roman's face was covered in bandages. He told Lincoln about the condition of the corpse. Lincoln had already washed Roman's shirt, which got stained with blood last night. Roman thanked Lincoln for his help. In the kitchen, Jacob was making breakfast for Roman. However, Roman didn't like their caring attitude towards him. He came out of the building and met Sonia, who lit her cigarette and told Roman about her friend who got frostbite and had to get her leg amputated as it was snowing there. Roman was disappointed in himself and felt guilty about screwing up their plan. Sonia tried to cheer him up by telling him about Jacob, who hated it when anyone from his side got hurt. He had a soft heart. Sonia got permission to operate on the body found last night and went inside. Roman thought to himself that he should have behaved with maturity last night. He could feel the pain in his face. Just then, Sonia called him and told him about a kid looking for him at the front door. At Fisher's place, He was furious with Eddie and his dog, shouting at them. Luck tried to calm him down but got a sound lecture instead. Luck said that whining about the losers would do no good, and they should think of their next steps. Fisher silenced them as his granddaughter had called him. After the call, Fisher came back and told them to find those thieves as soon as possible, or the next shipment would contain their bodies. Luck assured him that he would find the culprits and bring them to Fisher. He only required 1 day to do this job. Larry is sitting in Roman's room, telling him about Jane and the accident from last night. He called Roman, but no one picked up the call. Roman told him that he was out for some business. Mrs. Jane's funeral was planned years ago by herself. Larry asked Roman to make the arrangements. He had already called his family and told his son about it, who didn't seem sad but frustrated. Larry told Roman that Jane was happy last night as she met her friends to drink the wine he gave her the other day. Roman didn't give it much thought as he only wanted to prevent the wine from getting wasted, and it was a buy one, get one free deal. Jane was a good person. Larry was sad yet happy as she didn't have to suffer in her last moments. When Larry left, Jacob entered the room and asked what happened. Roman told him about Mrs. Jane. Jacob became shocked as she was alive until yesterday. He asked Roman about her funeral, and he said that she'd go to the market. Jacob asked why he couldn't just give her a normal funeral. She was a good lady who smiled every time she saw Roman, and he saw her almost every day for his meals. Roman asked him why and how he got a soft spot for Jane, and he didn't need a lecture from him. An argument had just started between them. Jacob said that she was different from the random criminals he sees daily. Roman told him that everyone is the same when they die, and it's his job. Those random criminals are more worthy of him than an old lady. I'm not like you, Roman, Jacob said. Roman got triggered up and asked Jacob why he was feeling guilty about it. It's their job. They cannot show discrimination between corpses. Roman left. Jacob became furious and started throwing things, saying he's not guilty of anything and he just wanted a damn funeral for the old lady. From the mortgage, Roman took Jane's body while thinking about the food, coffee, newspaper, and puzzle magazines she arranged for him. He took a week-old newspaper from his car and saw a familiar face on the front page. It was Jackson Dickinson. The dead body in Roman's basement with 2 missing fingers is Jackson Dickinson. Roman realized that the body in his basement was that of Jackson Dickinson, and Sonia was about to operate on him. He looked for his phone but had forgotten it at his house. He called his office number from a public phone, as he didn't know their phone numbers. He rushed to the workplace as no one was picking up the call. At Piotrowski's, Jacob asked what they were up to. Dosia asked what was wrong, and Sonia took the man's side, saying that a corpse is a corpse and they are all equal. He told her that she sounded like Roman. He asked her, what is she up to? She said she needed to practice. On the other side, Roman was trying his best to reach the house as soon as he could to prevent Sonia from damaging the corpse. He thought to himself that there must be a reason why his corpse was the only one that wasn't chopped off in the cargo truck. In the basement, Sonia asked Jacob why he was still watching the corpse if he was getting disgusted by it. He said he had always given the tough job to others, but now at least he could see how it's done. The body was not defrosting, so she was using a hairdryer. Roman rushed into the house and asked Lincoln where Sonia was. He went into the basement, where she was about to slice Jackson's throat. Roman grabbed her hand and stopped her at the exact moment. He felt relieved. Roman told them about Jackson and how much effort the police were putting into finding him. They recognized him. Everyone recognized Jackson's corpse, and he was also the most wanted person in the whole of New York. His body remaining intact must be for some reason, and keeping him also poses a great risk. They cannot sell him on the market like other corpses. Roman said the greater risk would give them a greater reward. Roman put the bodies in the fridge and told Jacob that he was arranging a funeral for Mrs. Jane, but only on one condition: Jacob had to find the most profitable way to deal with Jackson's body. Jacob became happy and agreed to Roman's condition. Sonia received a message and told Jacob that her father had invited her to dinner tonight and asked him to join. Jacob accepted the invitation. Roman came out of the fridge and asked about dinner. Jacob told him about the time when he was working with Fisher and Sonia's dad. They were on a job, and they messed up. Jacob got a deep scar on his neck, and Sonia's father was badly injured. The scene changed when Sonia met her father. He asked about their work. She said she was working with Jacob and others. Her father was in a wheelchair. She told him that Jacob still felt guilty about his condition, and he didn't like it. He said Jacob should have been in contact with him. She was pushing his wheelchair, but it got stuck in a crack on the sidewalk. When she was about to push it, a man from behind offered her some help. It was lucky. They thanked him. Her dad had forgotten the restaurant's name, and when he asked the man, he told them that he was going to the same restaurant. They reached the restaurant and took their tables. Sonia told her father about the corpse of Jackson Dickinson. It made him worry, but she said that they would be fine as Jacob had been thinking of a plan. She said that there was another person helping them and told him about Roman. On the other hand, the man had been talking to an informant. But then he said that he didn't need her services anymore because he had overheard Sonia and her father's conversation.